March 17, 1943. Tirpitz Sofa 76-78 Berlin. The folder crashed down on the mahogany desk so forcefully that Admiral Wilhelm Canaris' porcelain coffee cup spilled, darkening intelligence documents that, if the Gestapo found them, would mean his death. This cannot be. The Americans are delivering us misinformation through agents they have flipped. Peering through the tall windows of Abwehr headquarters, Canaris gazed at the Landwehr Canal, infamous for being where Rosa Luxemburg's body had been disposed of 24 years ago. At present, as head of German military intelligence, he grasped a report in his shaking hands that defied more than just Nazi misinformation. It undermined the very statistical logic behind Germany's anticipated triumph. Intercepted transmissions and dispatches from agents still based in Mexico City indicated that the Ford Motor Company's Willow Run facility was turning out a 4E9 B-24 Liberator bomber every 60 minutes. The B-24 Liberator, built from 1.5 million distinct pieces, 450,000 rivets, and 30,000 different parts, was being assembled into an 18-ton warplane, emerging from the production line at a rate outpacing Germany's output of a basic Kübelwagen military truck. Major Friedrich Wilhelm Heinz, who stood rigid before Canaris's desk, had checked and rechecked the intelligence 3 times. The statistics held steady. What neither officer realized was that this instant would begin the most crushing intelligence catastrophe in 20th-century warfare, marked by German espionage's continuous inability to fathom, accept, or properly brief Nazi authorities about the immense reality of American industrial power, sealing the Third Reich's fate by misjudging undeniable mathematics. The downfall of German assessments of American manufacturing had already started 2 years before. In 1941, Luftwaffe General Karl Kohler presented Hermann Göring with news from military attaché General Friedrich Bonhoeffer in Washington, claiming American aircraft construction was nearing 2,000 planes per month. Göring had burst out laughing, loudly, insisting that Americans could produce nothing but refrigerators and razors, certainly not warplanes. The Americans are merely pretending, Göring informed Hitler at the Wolfschanze in December 1941, only 4 days after Pearl Harbor. Democracy leaves them soft. Their mixed population makes their work ineffective. Their Jewish citizens corrupt their nation. There's no way they can generate what they report. Come March 1943, German spy rings all over the Americas reported data that contradicted every core belief of Nazi racial doctrine and economic theory. These accounts emerged from a range of contacts: Mexican industry leaders favoring Germany, Spanish diplomats, Swedish merchants who visited Detroit, and even censored mail from American laborers sent to kin in non-belligerent countries. Each communicated the same unfathomable information. Ford's Willow Run site alone was manufacturing more heavy bombers than all German airplane plants together. Oberstleutnant Nicholas Ritter, the lead of AB's aviation intelligence branch tied to Furl Luft, devoted 3 weeks to scrutinizing the figures. A former Lufthansa aviator who had spent a decade living in the United States prior to hostilities, Ritter possessed insight into American output unmatched by most in his position. From his Manhattan flat back in the 1920s, he had witnessed the Chrysler Building being erected. He had seen Americans build the world's tallest skyscraper in under 2 years. Herr Admiral Ritter briefed Canaris. Should these statistics be accurate, and I am persuaded they are, then Germany's defeat is already mathematically determined. Only the time remains in question. The intelligence arrived via roundabout and increasingly perilous paths. Georg Niklas, orchestrating AB's chief network in Mexico City, had cultivated informants among American businessmen who journeyed uninterrupted between Detroit and Mexico's petroleum sites. These individuals recounted marvels they'd observed to fellow diners, ignorant that German spies recorded every word. On February 3, 1943, U.S. oilman Harold Morrison attended an event at the German-Mexican Commerce Association in the Mexican capital. After he'd had several tequilas, Morrison began relating his tour of Willow Run, which Ford arranged in order to impress possible investors with their credentials for government work. Morrison declared, not realizing that Wolfgang Blau, posing as an Argentine leather dealer for German intelligence, was committing all the details to memory. What I witnessed can barely be believed. The assembly operation stretches more than a mile. The factory's so immense that clouds develop inside it, and rain periodically falls right in the building. They employ 42,000 workers, among them thousands of women, including African American women, putting together the most advanced machine mankind has built. Taking up his pencil, Morrison made sketches on a napkin. The bomber encompasses 2 bomb bays, each carrying 4,000 pounds of weapons, 4 engines each rated at 1,200 horsepower. Construction occurs in modular pieces. Ford refers to them as subassemblies which merge like streams entering the ocean. Wing modules approach from one side, fuselages from another, tail units from yet another. They fuse at set stages down the line, Blau inquired, feigning a casual curiosity. But with such intricacy, surely breakdowns and holdups must be constant. Morrison chuckled. That's what Consolidated Aircraft assumed. They ridiculed Ford, claiming planes can't be built like automobiles. But Ford dismantled bomber production into 60,000 separate chores. Each worker repeats a single duty over and over. A woman who yesterday was prepping her children's breakfast is now installing hydraulic pipes into the tail. Training takes days, not months. Some of the most granular intelligence came through Francisco Franco's Spain. Colonel José Ungría, Spanish military envoy stationed in Washington, maintained tight connections with American aircraft firms, even while he covertly funneled reports to Germany in return for tungsten critically needed by Spanish factories. In March 1943, Ungría went to a gathering at the Argentine embassy where he conversed with Charles Sorensen, the production leader at Ford and primary designer of Willow Run. Believing Ungría to represent a neutral power possibly interested in post-war plane purchases, Sorensen spoke openly of the site's abilities. Colonel Sorensen stated, never guessing his remarks would reach Berlin in under 2 weeks. When I first saw Consolidated's San Diego plant in 1940, aircraft were assembled outdoors beneath the sky, each one unique, demanding 180,000 work hours for completion. I was convinced we could improve. Ungría pressed for precise methods, making out that his curiosity was as a military engineer. Sorensen, eager to showcase his work, complied. I spent a night in my hotel in San Diego designing the entire manufacturing routine. Our approach was to assemble bombers as we do automobiles, not by gathering workers around a static airframe, but by having the airplane progress past crews in place. Repeated tasks led each laborer to mastery. The Spaniard quizzed him about the training and labor complications of such a sophisticated system. We set up a training program that educates 8,000 new staff weekly, Sorensen explained. Women constitute 40% of the workforce. They outshine men in detailed tasks, owing to smaller hands for cramped areas and greater patience for repetitious work. African Americans handle intricate machines. 16-year-old boys oversee logistical operations. Colonel, Sorensen said, in a democracy, every human resource is mobilized. Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, and Turkish intelligence routes continually verified reports of Willow Run's pace. Swedish engineer Erik Lundberg paid the factory a visit in March 1943 and signaled, "Plant performance astounds by European standards." They utilize 1,600 custom machine tools, many created for single jobs. Capital deployed is immense, around $200 million just for the equipment. Code from Japanese leader Toshikazu Omi to Tokyo, which German intelligence intercepted, confirmed the accounts. This lone plant turns out more aircraft in a month than Japan's total aviation sector. Come April 1943, German intelligence gathered thorough documentation from 17 different informants, all upholding the pace. The figures were overwhelming. Willow Run alone was yielding 650 B-24s each month at capacity, with all U.S. B-24 construction surpassing 1,400 units each month. In search of first-hand verification, Canaris approved Operation Pastorius, sending saboteurs to America via submarine. George John Dash, in charge of a 4-person cell, had lived 2 decades in the U.S. before returning to Germany in 1939. Canaris's confidential instructions were clear. Obtain intelligence on airplane production, with sabotage operations secondary. In the pre-dawn darkness of June 13, 1942, Dash's squad landed at Amagansett, Long Island, coming ashore from U-202 minutes after midnight. Within several days, plagued by doubts about his assignment and already aware of America's industrial prowess, Dash gave himself up to the FBI. While being questioned, Dash disclosed something that shocked his American interrogators. Canaris personally advised me that Berlin doubts your output statistics. They assume Willow Run is a fabrication. He demanded photos, recorded headcounts, shipping logs, undeniable evidence to force Göring to face the truth. FBI agent Charles Landman reacted with disbelief. They don't accept that we build a bomber an hour? Dash offered a bitter laugh. Agent Landman, I lived in your country. I saw your car plants with my own eyes. I warned them if Ford could roll out a car every minute before the conflict, it was plausible to make a bomber per hour now. They charged me with defeatism. On April 20, 1943, for Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris made a personal visit to Göring at Karen Hall, the lavish hunting lodge of the Reichsmarschall located north of Berlin, to deliver the intelligence personally. This meeting would earn a place in legend among German intelligence circles due to Göring's utter refusal to accept the truth. Canaris had brought with him photographs, intercepted communications, and reports gathered from numerous sources. He laid them out across Göring's enormous oak table, reminiscent of a dealer revealing a losing hand. Herr Reichsmarschall, Canaris began with caution, we have confirmation from 17 separate sources. The Ford Willow Run plant is building 1 B-24 Liberator every single hour at maximum output. They have maintained this pace continuously since January. At this stage of the war, Göring, whose weight exceeded 280 pounds, picked up a photograph depicting the seemingly endless assembly line. Canaris, Göring sneered, do you take me for an idiot? These are just wooden dummies, props for show. The Americans are trying to trick us into believing they manufacture airplanes as quickly as sausages. That Willow Run plant can't be making more than 50 bombers in a month. Canaris presented another piece of evidence, a seized manifest from the Pennsylvania Railroad detailing aluminum deliveries. Herr Reichsmarschall, this one plant uses 16 million pounds of aluminum a month. That's beyond what we produce in an entire month. Göring let out a coarse laugh. Tell me then, where does this aluminum come from? They're black laborers? They're women at the rivets? Canaris, you have been duped by American lies. 7 days later, Canaris was called to the Wolfschanz to make a direct report to Hitler. The gathering included Generals Jodl and Keitel as well as Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels. Hitler, poring over Eastern Front maps as the Wehrmacht prepared for Operation Citadel and the battle at Kursk, listened irritably as Canaris relayed the intelligence. Mein Führer, Canaris ventured, fully aware of the danger, if the Americans are turning out 1,400 B-24s every month, plus just as many B-17s as well as their fighters, along with British output, the bombing onslaught against the Reich will soon surpass what we can counter. Hitler's reply was in character. Admiral, Americans are adept at assembling basic goods, cars, refrigerators, but making a bomber is not like assembling a car. It requires craftsmanship, accuracy, and devotion. While we needed 6 years of preparation for war, they allege achieving this in just 16 months. Inconceivable. General Jodl reviewed Canaris's data and did the math. Even if only a fourth of those numbers are correct, the numbers are fabricated, Hitler interrupted. The Americans joined the conflict in December 1941. To construct such a wonder factory and reach these output levels so quickly is out of the question. Unknown to the Nazi high command, Canaris had obtained Willow Run factory footage via American intelligence contacts in Switzerland. The movie, ferried out in Spanish diplomatic mail, captured 5 minutes of the assembly line running at full capacity. Canaris and his assistant Hans Oster screened the footage in a secure room at Abwehr headquarters. The camera moved the length of the mile-long production line. B-24s in various stages of assembly rolled past smoothly. Men and women, black workers and white, all performed their duties with unwavering efficiency. A clock appearing in several frames authenticated the time sequence. "My God," Oster whispered. "It's all real." Canaris set fire to the film with his lighter, watching it burn to ashes. "We can't turn this over. They'd only accuse us of fabricating footage or see us as traitors." In November 1943, the Germans acquired aerial photographs of Willow Run taken by a Spanish diplomat. Analysts pored over the photos for weeks. Their determination. Parking lots held around 12,000 automobiles, suggesting work around the clock in 3 shifts. Finished B-24s could be seen parked at the adjacent airfield 47 ready for deployment. Skylights allowed a view of the assembly line, and the aircraft were positioned exactly as described in previous reports. Rail lines showed dozens of freight cars arriving with supplies. Hedman Bernard wrote, "Photographic confirmation matches human reports. Output rates seem valid. Suggest immediate strategic review." When Göring viewed the photos, he dismissed them as sophisticated American tricks, likely involving model miniatures. Dr. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments chief and the only top Nazi figure who truly grasped industrial matters, obtained the American reports in secret. His diary from May 15, 1943 found post-war expressed his despair. "If Willow Run numbers are even 50% true, we're facing destruction, not mere defeat. They make more planes in a single month than we do over an entire year. Yet I cannot speak this openly. To do that is to sign my own death sentence." Dr. Otto Ohlendorf, SD Inland head and trained economist, scrutinized American economic numbers. His December 1943 report to Himmler was blunt. Ford Motor Company built 1.1 million vehicles in 1941 before the war. They have repurposed that line for bombers at current rates. By June 1944, America will have turned out enough B-24s alone to match all our 1940 bombings of London daily. On December 24, 1943, Canaris was given reports about projected American output for 1944. B-24 Liberators, 18,000. B-17 Flying Fortresses, 12,000. B-29 Superfortresses, 1,000. Fighter planes, 40,000. Total, 86,000 aircraft. When shown these numbers, Hitler's reply was, "The Americans say they'll produce more aircraft in 1944 than every country in history combined. That's preposterous." By February 1944, Canaris was ousted, charged with defeatism and betrayal. His successor, Walter Schellenberg, was devoted to the Nazi cause and would never dispute Hitler or Göring. But reality eventually demanded attention. On February 20, 1944, during Big Week, the American 8th Air Force started Operation Argument, launching over 1,000 heavy bombers at German aircraft manufacturing sites. In a mere 6 days, they dropped more bombs than the Luftwaffe managed over Britain throughout the entire Blitz. German fighter ace Adolf Galland informed Göring, "Herr Reichsmarschall, I have counted more than 800 bombers flying together. These are real machines carrying real bombs." On June 6, 1944, a fleet of more than 11,000 Allied aircraft appeared over France. The Luftwaffe could muster less than 300 fighters in reaction. Field Marshal Hugo Sparrow sent a last-ditch message to Berlin. "The enemy's control of the air is total. Our intelligence was accurate. It was not the Americans, but ourselves, who led us astray." By April 1944, Willow Run reached its highest level of output. During that month, employees working in 2 shifts of 9 hours each, for 6 days every week, assembled 453 airplanes within 468 hours, which meant one completed B-24 Liberator left the line every 63 minutes. A total of 42,331 individuals were employed at the plant, with 11,000 of them being women. which made up 26% of the staff. There were 3,800 African Americans, accounting for 9% of the workforce. Additionally, 1,200 disabled employees comprised 3% of the workers. Such a workforce composition would have completely contradicted the racial doctrine of the Nazis. Groups considered inferior and weaker by Nazi standards surpassed the so-called German master race in production by vast margins. After the conflict, surviving German intelligence personnel exposed the magnitude of this shortcoming. At Nuremberg, Walter Schellenberg gave testimony. By early 1943, we had discovered the reality regarding American manufacturing. Every competent intelligence operative knew the figures were correct. However, conveying this truth meant risking death for spreading defeatism. In his memoirs, Hans-Bern Gisevius stated, "What was tragic was not our lack of information regarding American production. We were overwhelmed by it. The real tragedy was our leaders' refusal to believe it, as it clashed with their racial beliefs." German intelligence agents who attempted to reveal the truth suffered severe punishments. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris was executed on April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg concentration camp. Hans Oster was also put to death on April 9, 1945, at Flossenburg camp. Alexis von Rhone was executed in October 1944 for taking part in the July 20 conspiracy. Hans-Bern Gavius managed to escape to Switzerland and lived through the war. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey later verified what German intelligence had initially reported. Between 1942 and 1945, Willow Run manufactured 8,685 B-24 bombers. At its highest point, monthly production was 650 planes. This hourly pace was maintained for several months. The average cost per aircraft was reduced from $238,000 to $137,000. During post-war questioning, Albert Speer was asked why Germany refused to trust the intelligence on American manufacturing. Recognizing that Ford could produce a bomber every hour demanded an admission that our whole perspective was false. It would mean admitting that democracy was powerful, not frail. That diversity did not produce fragility but rather resilience. That women were capable of traditionally male roles. Accepting this would have meant conceding that we had initiated a war we could never hope to win. Who would dare tell Hitler such a thing? Rose Willow Monroe, the woman who inspired the figure of Rosie the Riveter, worked as a rivet gun operator on the B-24 assembly line. She, like many other women, had never held an industrial job before the attack on Pearl Harbor. In a 1984 interview, Monroe recalled, "We realized we were making a difference," she said. "Every rivet we installed was contributing to ending the war. Sometimes we covered double shifts, sleeping in the parking lot between them. Our brothers, husbands, and loved ones piloted these aircraft." The disbelief in intelligence concerning Willow Run led to devastating results. Production of fighters. Germany persisted in manufacturing bombers until the end of 1944. Allocation of resources. Assets were diverted to so-called wonder weapons rather than effective defenses. High-level strategic planning. Strategies were designed to counter hundreds of bombers instead of thousands. Diplomatic missteps. Efforts at peace were delayed because certain defeat was not acknowledged. German economists, analyzing seized American records, grasped the actual scale. Willow Run required a $200 million investment. The total German aircraft industry capital outlay from 1933 to 1945 was $400 million. Willow Run's facility offered 3.5 million square feet of production area. The total space of all German plane factories together was 8 million square feet. Willow Run used 2.5 million kilowatts of electricity each month. The United States had constructed a single factory that consumed more energy than entire German cities. When the war concluded, a comprehensive summary finally disclosed the complete scale. The total number of B-24s manufactured was 18,188. Willow Run produced 8,685 of these. The total number of B-17s built was 12,731. From 1940 to 1945, overall American aircraft production reached 33,717 units. In comparison, German aircraft production from 1940 to 1945 amounted to 94,700 planes. The United States created aircraft at a rate that was 3.2 times greater than Germany's, even while engaged in war on two fronts. Scholars describe the inability of German intelligence to grasp American manufacturing output as among the most significant failures in military history. The problem did not lie in intelligence gathering. German operatives obtained precise and thorough data. The issue was in accepting this information. Leaders were unwilling to accept intelligence that challenged their prevailing beliefs. Dr. Gerd Weinberg determined that German intelligence had made an accurate evaluation of American production capabilities by the beginning of 1943. If this intelligence had been trusted and acted upon, Germany could have pursued peace 2 years sooner, potentially saving millions of lives. The account imparts important lessons. Cognitive distortion. Accurate information may be disregarded if it opposes fundamental convictions. Ideological obscuration. Political doctrine can prevail over numerical facts. Structural breakdown. Intelligence systems that penalize unwelcome realities become environments for pleasing falsehoods. Deadly misjudgment. Failing to appreciate adversaries can result in disastrous mistakes. At the 1985 inauguration of the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run, former Rosie the Riveter Rose Willow Monroe encountered former Luftwaffe pilot Hans Rudel. Rudel inquired, "How did you manage to construct so many, so quickly?" Monroe replied, "Sweetheart, we simply showed up to work every day and fulfilled our duties. Nothing elaborate, just clock in, assemble bombers, clock out. Democracy isn't complex, it is simply free individuals doing their utmost." Rudel responded, "We were told democracy would make you feeble, that your diversity would cause inefficiency. We were fed falsehoods, and these falsehoods cost millions of lives." Amid the ruins of Berlin in May 1945, American intelligence found a final German report on Willow Run, dated April 20, 1945, Hitler's final birthday. Willow Run's output was verified. "We reported this information 2 years prior. Our warnings went unheeded. Germany perished not because of a lack of information, but because it lacked the wisdom to accept facts that conflicted with its desires." Let those who follow remember that reality is not altered by ideology. Numbers do not give way to myths. Ignored truth turns into disaster. That report was never received. Hitler was already confined to his bunker by then. The Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years had only days remaining to exist, while thousands of American bombers, many manufactured at Willow Run, sealed the conclusion German intelligence had attempted to present 2 years before. History's judgment is unequivocal. German intelligence gathering was effective. Their acceptance of intelligence was disastrously flawed. In that refusal to acknowledge difficult facts is a cautionary tale for every country. Reality remains unaffected by belief. Those who choose ideology over reality will eventually be undone by it. Willow Run accomplished more than producing bombers. It demonstrated that democracy functions, diversity empowers, and freedom generates results. German agents tallied everything. German authorities dismissed it all. That rejection brought about the fall of the Third Reich as surely as any explosive device.